In 1789, a severe economic crisis struck France, leading the people who were against the monarchy to revolt. They successfully overthrew the king and imprisoned tens of thousands of royal supporters. Furthermore, Queen Marie Antoinette of France was also executed. The public cheered at the queen's death, holding her responsible for the ongoing crisis. Amidst the crowd there stood a military officer named Napoleon Bonaparte, who could only watch silently as the queen was executed. A few days later, after the monarchy collapsed, members of the council formed a new government. Meanwhile, Napoleon and his brother, Lucien Bonaparte, met with the French army commissioner, Paul Barras. Paul sought Napoleon's help to drive out the British fleet that had taken control of the Toulon harbor, trapping a part of the French forces there. The British had long dominated Toulon, and no general had yet managed to dislodge them. Confidently, Napoleon agreed to undertake this mission. He devised a plan to capture the fortress at Toulon harbor, reasoning that if they could seize the fortress, the British forces would surrender. Paul approved the plan. The next day, Napoleon arrived in Toulon, saddened by the dire state of the French troops there. He began executing his plan, rallying the troops to repair the cannons in the area. Napoleon even disguised himself as an ordinary citizen to observe the fortress up close. In short, due to his success, Paul promoted Napoleon to the rank of general. A year after the revolution, France's economy had not improved. The dissatisfied populace dissolved the Revolutionary Council led by Robespierre. Consequently, 41,500 royal supporters who had been imprisoned were released. At a party, Napoleon became intrigued by a woman named Josephine. Their relationship grew closer over time. Eventually, Josephine confessed that she was a widow with 2 children, and her husband had died during the Revolution for supporting King Louis XVI. Josephine feared that her troubled past would ruin Napoleon's career. However, Napoleon was undeterred, having already fallen in love with Josephine. To summarize, Napoleon ordered cannon fire against the protesters, resulting in many casualties. The revolutionary group eventually retreated. Following his victory over the revolutionaries, Napoleon married Josephine. Afterward, he led the French army to expand into other European countries, culminating in the French invasion of Egypt in 1798. Thanks to Napoleon's military strategies, the French successfully conquered Egypt. However, all these victories did not make Napoleon happy, because he had to maintain a long-distance relationship with his wife, Josephine. One day, Junot, one of Napoleon's aides, informed him that Josephine was having an affair with a nobleman. Initially, Napoleon did not believe it, but Junot explained that the information came from Josephine's personal assistant. Angered, Napoleon decided to return to France. Junot tried to dissuade him, as this could be seen as betrayal, but Napoleon did not care. In short, Lucien then suggested that Napoleon stage a coup to save France. Lucien believed that under Napoleon's leadership, France would be better off once their plans were set. 1 year later, Napoleon and Lucien carried out a coup, removing one by one the members of the council, including Paul Barras. They then held a session with the council members. In that session, Lucien announced that from that day forward, Napoleon would hold the highest authority in France. The council members, of course, did not agree and accused Napoleon of seeking absolute power. Napoleon and Lucien then provoked the troops outside by saying that the council members inside were blocking France's glory. The troops entered the meeting room, forcing all the council members to agree that Napoleon was the supreme ruler. In short, Charles, the French Minister of Foreign Affairs, then met with Napoleon. Charles stated that the British were underestimating Napoleon because he held only the title of First Consul. Charles suggested that Napoleon become emperor, the leader of the kings under the vast French Empire, so that the British kingdom would respect him. In short, Napoleon and Josephine were eventually crowned Emperor and Empress of France. He became the ruler of much of Europe and even parts of the Americas. However, this was not enough. Despite being married for years, Josephine had not conceived. Charles often reminded Napoleon that the continuity of the French Empire depended on an heir. One evening at dinner, Napoleon brought up the issue of an heir with Josephine, saying that if she did not conceive soon, he might have to divorce her, though this was merely a bluff. The following year, as winter approached, France prepared to attack Russia and Austria, which had allied against France. Russian leader Tsar Alexander I and Austrian leader Franz I conspired to conquer France. In fact, Russia had been an ally of France, but this time they betrayed France. Napoleon heard that Tsar Alexander was planning to mimic his battle tactics, but this did not intimidate him. In short, Napoleon destroyed the lake with cannons, causing the enemy troops to fall into the water. As a result, France won the battle. Following the defeat, the Austrian emperor met with Napoleon to negotiate. However, Tsar Alexander of Russia did not attend, as he was furious over the defeat. Napoleon remarked that he could have killed all the Russian and Austrian troops, but he chose not to. He then offered peace to celebrate France's victory. Napoleon hosted a dance party. At the party, his mother wanted to find out who was infertile, Napoleon or his wife. She suggested Napoleon sleep with a young woman to determine this. If the woman became pregnant, then the issue lay with Josephine. A few days later, it was reported that the woman Napoleon had been with was pregnant. Upon hearing this, Napoleon did not immediately divorce Josephine. He asked his advisors to lie, planning to detain Josephine until the child was born, and then claim the child as his with Josephine. However, his advisors warned that this could backfire someday. In short, a year later, Napoleon had a son with Marie. Napoleon then presented the baby to Josephine. A few years later, Tsar Alexander betrayed France by allying with England. Angered, Napoleon decided to attack Russia's capital, Moscow. Besides the French forces, Napoleon also brought troops from Austria, Italy, Poland, and Germany, totaling 600,000 soldiers. Along the way, they were confronted by guerrilla forces. This conflict became known as the Battle of Borodino. The battle was won by France, but 28,000 French soldiers were lost. Napoleon didn't forget to send a letter to Josephine informing her of his victory. He mentioned that he would soon reach Moscow. In short, the French forces also suffered defeats against the combined armies of Austria, England, and Russia, leaving only 40,000 of the original 600,000 soldiers. As a result, after experiencing various defeats, Napoleon was dethroned. He was sentenced to exile on the island of Elba for an indefinite period. Napoleon lived in solitude on Elba as he served his sentence. After 300 days in exile, rumors spread that Tsar Alexander was courting Josephine. Upon hearing this, Napoleon could not accept it, as he still considered Josephine to be his. Napoleon resolved to return to France to reclaim Josephine and his empire. The news of Napoleon's return spread far and wide. However, unbeknownst to Napoleon, Josephine fell ill, suffering from severe diphtheria, and soon after she passed away. In short, in 1815, the Congress of Vienna was held, where Britain and its allies, including King Louis XVIII, who currently led France, discussed plans to remove Napoleon. Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, chaired the Congress. To them, Napoleon was merely a power-hungry pest since his initial coup against the French monarchy. This pest needed to be eradicated. Meanwhile, Napoleon and his forces devised strategies to combat Britain and its allies, aware that they would be outnumbered if Britain and its allies united. Napoleon planned to strike Britain first. A few months later, Napoleon and his troops prepared to attack the British forces at Waterloo, Belgium. Napoleon needed to defeat the British before the Russian army could assist. Unfortunately, on the day of the battle, heavy rain persisted, delaying the battle until the rain stopped. A spy reported that the Russian forces were on the move, prompting Napoleon to order his troops to prepare the cannons. As the rain gradually ceased, the cannons were fired at the British forces. 6 years later, Napoleon died of stomach cancer. Throughout his life, Napoleon led 61 battles in his military career. These battles claimed the lives of 3 million soldiers. Before his death, Napoleon uttered 3 words: France, military, and Josephine, thus concluding the story of the film Napoleon. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.